Will you join me in prayer? Let the words of my mouth and the meditations of our hearts be acceptable in your sight, O Lord, our rock and our Redeemer. Amen. How often have you found yourself saying, if I'd only known then what I know now? If I'd only known then what I know now, I wouldn't have fretted away so much of my adolescence pining over the first love of my life, whose interest in me never matched my interest in her. At the time, I was devastated. But now, I know the difference between infatuation and authentic love. Today, I'm blessed to have found my life's companion. If I'd only known then what I know now, I wouldn't have allowed my work to take such precedence over the rest of my life. At the time, I felt as if I needed to prove myself worthy of the office to which I'd been ordained. Now, I know that every hour I give to my work, I take from someone else. Today, I wish I hadn't taken so much time away from my father, who died much younger than I had anticipated. If I'd only known then what I know now, I wouldn't have been so hard on myself when the churches that I've served haven't grown by leaps and bounds and amassed treasuries overflowing with surplus contributions. At the time, I felt like a failure. Now, I know that church attendance in America peaked in the late 1950s, and since then has been undergoing an epic transformation in our culture that will eventually lead to the death and resurrection of every congregation in America. Today I understand that there are some things that I have the power to impact in a positive way, and some things that I don't. All throughout our lives, we have to form opinions, draw conclusions, make decisions before we know everything that we need to know in order to make good and faithful choices. While we are still children, people begin bombarding us with the question, what do you want to be when you grow up? The pressure to choose a career track only intensifies as we move through our adolescence into young adulthood. In our 20s and 30s, we are expected to choose our life's companion, get married, start a family when we're still trying to sort out our own identities. At the time when we can barely manage our own lives, we take full responsibility for raising children who are completely dependent on us and attribute omniscience and omnipotence and omnipresence to us as parents. In our middle years, we're supposed to be ascending to the pinnacle of our careers and taking on more and more work responsibilities with every promotion at the very time when we are overwhelmed with juggling responsibilities for being faithful companions to our spouses, maintaining our homes, supporting our church, entertaining our friends, and shuttling our children to every conceivable activity and event in order to afford them every opportunity to grow up into successful, well-rounded, overstressed adults. But in our senior years, after we retire from our work, and our children are grown up and on their own, and we finally have some time on our hands, when we are filled with the accumulated wisdom of all the lessons learned and insights gained from a whole lifetime of experience, we suddenly discover that no one seems particularly interested in anything we have to offer. Seniors get ignored, overlooked, patronized, dismissed. In our culture, seniors aren't expected to make any significant contribution to society. They're supposed to spend their days relaxing and enjoying leisurely pursuits, taking cruises, playing golf, playing bridge, playing slot machines at the casino, going out for lunch, gathering for cocktails at happy hour. In our youth-oriented culture, seniors are considered obsolete, out of touch, behind the times, uninformed. Those of us who've gone out to the Pine Ridge Reservation and have spent time with the Oglala Lakota people have heard them speak with reverence about the wisdom of the elders. They consult their elders with every important decision they have to make, because of the wisdom that their elders have accumulated through all of their experiences of their long lives. And they honor their elders as the custodians of their tribal history and their tribal values and their tribal ideals. In our Western youth-oriented culture, we get so preoccupied with what our seniors can't do anymore that we often overlook the wisdom that comes with the gift of years. This morning, we heard the newly anointed King Solomon pray to God for wisdom as he inherited the throne of his father David. Unlike our presidential candidates, Solomon never had to appear on a nationally televised debate. He didn't have to persuade his fellow citizens to vote for him. He never had to earn any credentials to qualify for his job. Solomon inherited his throne from his father David. God had made a covenant with the Hebrew people, promising that the throne of David would be established forever. Solomon didn't have to worry about studying or passing an exam or accumulating the necessary continuing education credits to keep his credential current. As king, he was ruler for life. But as Solomon ascended the throne of his father David, he realized the limited scope of his knowledge and the limited extent of his life experience, and so he prayed to God for wisdom. O Lord, my God, you have made your servant king in place of my father David. Although I am only a little child, I do not know how to go out and how to come in, and your servant is in the midst of the people whom you have chosen, a great people, so numerous they cannot be numbered or counted. Give your servant, therefore, an understanding mind to govern this people, able to discern between good and evil, for who can govern this, your great people? From Solomon's prayer, we learn that not knowing is the beginning of wisdom. Recognizing what we don't know is the beginning of wisdom. The moment we decide to stop learning, we decide to stop living meaningful lives. The moment we decide that we don't need to explore the things we don't understand, the moment we stop being curious about the challenges and the mysteries surrounding us, we make ourselves irrelevant. The world doesn't stand still for a moment. Changes are happening faster now than ever before. Technology is changing the way we communicate with one another. The internet is transforming the way we access information and conduct commerce. Global politics and economics are having a greater and greater impact on our local lives. Our bodies are changing, our families are changing, our neighborhoods are changing, and as frustrating and as overwhelming as that can sometimes feel, committing ourselves to lifelong learning is the only way that we can continue to be engaged in the world that we live in. If we don't, then the wisdom that our elders have to share with the next generations will be lost. Grandchildren will be deprived of loving support and encouraging presence if their grandparents don't learn how to navigate Facebook. Residents will lose the relational connections that transform streets into neighborhoods if seniors stop reaching out to connect with the new people who've moved onto the block. Congregations will lose the inspiration of those whose dedication and loyalty have built up the institutional church if older members withdraw from active engagement. in the face of changing times. The nation will lose the wisdom of those who have experienced every phase of life from birth to old age if, out of frustration or disillusionment, seniors opt out of social and political discourse. This week marked the 50th anniversary of the detonation of the first atomic bomb over the city of Hiroshima. 70,000 lives were snuffed out in an instant. Another 70,000 lives were lost in the ensuing weeks due to radiation poisoning. Most were not enemy combatants. Most were not soldiers in the Imperial Army of Japan. There were families waking from a night's sleep, getting ready to leave their homes to begin a new day. Children, parents, grandparents. We are the only nation in the history of civilization to have ever detonated a nuclear weapon in warfare, and then we did it again 3 days later over the city of Nagasaki. Today, we're trying to decide whether or not to ratify an agreement negotiated with Iran over their nuclear development. We need the wisdom of our elders to help us discern the right thing to do. Amidst the fervor of today's campaign rhetoric, we need to hear the voices of people who experience the consequences of those devastating explosions. They can't tell us the right decision to make today, but their wisdom is essential to the process of discernment. In her book, The Gift of Years, Joan Chittister reminds us that wisdom is not insisting on the old ways of doing things. It is the ability to make ancient truth the living memory of today. Listen to that again. Wisdom is not insisting on the old ways of doing things. It is the ability to make ancient truth the living memory of today. Wisdom is not the quality of being wedded to the past. Wisdom is the capacity to be devoted to ideals. Elders are meant to be the prophets of society, its compass, its truth tellers. To relinquish the position of seer and sage in a society rife with technicians and bureaucrats is to abandon the world we made. It is the older generation that must turn the spotlight back on our best ideals when the lights of the soul grow dim. It's because the pace of life, the pace of change keeps accelerating faster and faster that we need to rely on the wisdom of our elders more than ever before. In an age that's preoccupied with the latest, greatest innovation, we need the voices of those who have accumulated the lessons and the insights of a lifetime of experience and remind us of our highest ideals and help us think through the potential benefits and negative consequences of our decision, and help us remember the things we value most in life, and help us give those things our highest priority. When Solomon prayed for wisdom, God answered him saying, "Because you have asked this and have not asked for yourself long life or riches, or for the life of your enemies, but have asked for yourself understanding to discern what is right, I now do according to your word. Indeed, I give you a wise and discerning mind. No one like you has been before you. No one like you shall arise after you." That's the wisdom that comes with the gift of years. It's a gift that can only be shared by those who have been blessed with a lifetime of experience and are willing to offer what they've learned to help all of us discern how to be faithful as we move forward into a new day together.